There comes a moment in every man's journey when the weight becomes unbearable, when the road turns silent and heaven itself seems to retreat. But it is in this moment, yes, precisely here, that the gates of greater purpose begin to tremble with pressure. When God is about to give you something big, He does not announce it with trumpets. He sends resistance to test your sincerity. That is when men of faith are forged or forgotten. If you feel as though you are walking blind, walking alone, walking in vain, then understand this: you are walking toward the gift, and most abandon it just before it is delivered. This speech is your reminder, your warning, your vow. Stay with me, and I will show you what men like Lincoln, Carnegie, and Edison did in their darkest hour. And by the time you reach the end, you will no longer ask for your reward. You will expect it, because you will become the man worthy of it. There is a law that governs all men who are chosen for greatness, though few recognize it while they suffer under its weight. That law is simple. The blessing does not come before the burden. Every storm that has touched your life was not designed to destroy you. It was designed to prepare you. You see, the infinite intelligence does not hand over its richest treasures to those who merely wish for them. No, it examines, it refines, it tests, and the instrument it most often uses is pressure. If you are under pressure right now, it is not a sign that you are forsaken. It is a signal that you are being forged. Most men flee at the very threshold of breakthrough. They confuse friction for failure. They interpret resistance as rejection. But let me tell you a truth carved into the foundation of all success. Pressure is proof. It is proof that you are being trusted with something larger than you. It is proof that your comfort is being replaced with calling. The man who walks through life untouched by pressure is a man who was never marked for significance. Comfort is not the sign of favor. Resistance is. When Andrew Carnegie was building his empire in steel, he faced moments where bankruptcy stared him in the eye. Trusted men left him. Deals collapsed. The economy turned against him. And yet, in the heat of these trials, he did not complain. He called them the true test of my worth. Carnegie understood what few ever do, that pressure reveals not your failure, but your fitness. He rose not in spite of the storm, but through it. Henry Ford knew this same battle. His ideas were laughed at. He was sued, blocked, and belittled. Investors pushed him to quit. Banks questioned his solvency. But in the midst of this external collapse, Ford declared, "Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goal." He did not see resistance as a reason to turn back. He saw it as qualification. Every great man must be found worthy, and pressure is heaven's way of finding out who still stands when the applause is gone and the outcome uncertain. Understand this: no man can be trusted with influence, wealth, or purpose until he has proven that he will not quit when the skies darken. You are not being punished. You are being measured. The pressure you feel is the divine whisper. I am preparing you for something greater. Do not run. The seed does not grow in silence. It breaks under the soil. The diamond is not formed in a breeze. It is born in crushing weight. The man who mistakes this sacred process for abandonment will abort the very blessing he has been praying for. He will cry out, "Why me?" instead of standing firm and declaring, "This too is part of the plan." You must become the man who understands that the fire is not the end. It is the beginning. It is not your punishment. It is your preparation. And those who persist in the flame will walk out with power no man can steal. Let me be clear. Pressure will come for you. Not once, not twice, but again and again. Each time you grow, each time you rise. It will test your belief, your discipline, your character. And each time, the question will echo from within. Will you fold, or will you forge forward? There is no neutrality in this furnace. The man who delays under pressure has already begun to drift. The man who stands is the man who ascends. Carnegie, Ford, Lincoln, none of them escaped this law, and you shall not either. But understand this: they became who they were because of the pressure, and so shall you, but only if you respond not with complaint, but with conviction. Now say these words not as mere motivation, but as a decree from your new self to your old one. Let them echo into your spirit until they become your armor. I do not run from the storm. I am trained by it. Pressure reveals me, not ruins. My greatest pain is the doorway to my greatest purpose. Let this be the day you stop asking for less pressure and start building the strength that pressure was sent to reveal. You are not weak. You are being summoned. Rise accordingly. There are moments in a man's life when it feels as though heaven has turned its face from him, when prayers go unanswered, when doors do not open, when all efforts seem to return void. In these hours, the average man assumes he is forgotten. He declares himself cursed, but he is wrong. He is not being punished. He is being prepared. For the truth, seldom spoken in a world that worships haste, is this: the gift is never delayed. The man is simply not yet ready to receive it. The infinite intelligence does not hand over gold to those who have not proven themselves worthy of its weight. The mountain is high, yes, but it is not high to discourage you. It is high to ensure that only the man with the necessary legs may stand at its summit. You will not be lifted. You must climb. And the higher your vision, the longer the ascent. The longer the ascent, the stronger the man must become. The delay you curse is the very qualification you prayed for. You ask for greatness, yet complain when you are given the opportunity to build it. Thomas Edison, a man of relentless mind, did not find success quickly. He failed not once, but thousands of times in his pursuit to create the incandescent bulb. He did not weep in failure. He did not curse the delay. He knew what most forget. The result was not hidden from him. It was hidden for him, buried just deep enough to demand persistence, protected just long enough to mature his character. Had he found it sooner, perhaps he would not have appreciated it. Perhaps the world would not have either. But because he endured the silence, the failure, the years of grinding repetition, he became the man worthy of the answer. Abraham Lincoln knew this delay intimately. He failed more than he succeeded, lost more elections than he won, but every defeat carved deeper strength into his backbone. Every loss burned away superficial ambition and replaced it with sacred purpose. He could have surrendered. Many men of equal talent would have. But Lincoln held his vision in silence. He walked forward with no applause, because he understood a principle most men never grasp. The vision comes before the stage is ready, and the man must be ready before the stage can be trusted with his voice. It is tempting to call delay rejection, but rejection is the lie of the impatient man. The truth is far more empowering. Delay is divine development. The dream you hold was not denied. It was simply not yet deserved. You are still becoming, still refining. The very pressure you wish away is crafting the exact version of you that will not crumble under the weight of what is coming. Do not seek to escape this process. To receive too soon is to collapse when the responsibility comes. To succeed before becoming is to sabotage what should have saved you. Do you not see? The door is not locked. It is timed, and you are the key being shaped to open it. No effort is wasted. No trial is in vain. The lesson you learn in this dark season will be the light you carry into the next. The delay is not a void, it is a school. It is where your character is shaped, where your resolve is proven, where your spirit is molded to handle what comfort could never prepare you for. This is where most men give up. They walk away, blaming God, blaming fate, blaming the world. But the man who understands waits. Not passively, but powerfully. He builds himself so that when the day arrives, he is not surprised by the blessing. He is prepared to master it. Say these words not as hopeful chants, but as decrees from the man you are becoming. I trust the timing of my transformation. I prepare daily for what I have not yet seen. My delay is my development. I am not waiting. I am building. The blessing is not denied. It is waiting for me to be ready. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are in the exact place required to grow into your next self. The version of you that can handle what is coming does not arrive through ease. It is carved through delay. Hold the vision. Strengthen your back. Harden your discipline, so that when the mountain clears, you do not look up in regret. You look down from its peak, having conquered not only the journey, but the weakness that once begged you to stop climbing. Faith is not a feeling. It is not hope. It is not a fleeting emotion stirred by favorable circumstances. It is a discipline, a decision, a sacred commitment made in the absence of applause, direction, and visible reward. Faith is obedience without evidence. It is the act of moving when no door is open, when no light is present, when no man supports your vision. The average man waits for signs. He seeks reassurance. He listens for encouragement before he moves. But the man of faith walks because he knows something greater than evidence. He knows who he is becoming. In the still hours of your transformation, when you feel the weight of silence pressing down on your resolve, you must remember this truth. True faith is forged in the dark. It does not require sight. It does not require confirmation. It acts. It moves. It declares, even if I do not see it, I still obey. The man who waits for proof before committing never commits. The man who needs approval before acting never acts. Faith is what separates the builder from the beggar. It is what carries the visionary through the storm while others freeze, unsure and indecisive. Elbert Hubbard understood this principle like few men ever have. At a time when every voice around him echoed criticism and financial caution, he did not shrink. He did not submit to the fear of failure or the counsel of those who had never built anything themselves. No, he printed his words, published his thoughts, and propelled his vision into the world without delay. Even in debt, even in doubt, he obeyed the internal voice that said, "Purpose must not be postponed." When others feared mockery, Hubbard printed clarity. He did not ask for the world's permission to live a line. He commanded his future through unwavering, repeated acts of belief. Understand this clearly. The man who walks by sight is not a man of faith. He is a man of circumstance. But the one who walks forward, when nothing is clear, when the bridge is hidden in fog, when all logic says, turn back, that is the man in whom miracles take place. The subconscious is not swayed by ambition. It is reprogrammed by repetition in motion. Your soul learns who you are, not through your plans, but through your actions in the absence of guarantee. Every step you take without evidence engraves a deeper belief. Every act of obedience without reward tells your entire being, this is who I am now. Faith is the seed planted in barren soil. It is not discouraged when no fruit appears the next day. It does not curse the process. It does not question the outcome. It continues because it knows the law is unbreakable. Obedience always precedes manifestation. The man of faith understands that movement is not dependent on emotion. It is a matter of identity. He walks because he must. He builds because he is a builder. He keeps going because stopping would mean betraying the man he swore to become. There is no special reward for those who merely plan to believe. The treasure lies with those who walk while they are still bleeding, still doubting, still empty-handed, but walking nonetheless. The voice of God, of destiny, of definite purpose, does not shout. It whispers. And it whispers most clearly when you move without needing the world's reassurance. This is the test, not of faith alone, but of identity. Will you act as the man you claim to be, even when the path mocks you with its silence? And when you do, when you walk despite uncertainty, when you labor despite fatigue, when you speak as if the vision is already reality, you will find that the world bends around you. Resources appear. People show up. Opportunities align. Not because you waited, but because you moved. You obeyed purpose when it was invisible. And so now the invisible must become visible. This is the great law of all achievement. Obedience is the architect of destiny. Speak aloud what you must now embody, not once, but daily. I walk even when the path is not visible. I am the type of man who has faith. My obedience unlocks the unseen. I do not require evidence to act. I act to reveal it. Let the world ask for signs. Let others delay until conditions are perfect, but not you. You are not a man who waits for the storm to pass. You are a man who walks through the storm as if the sun has already risen. And when it does rise, as it always does for the faithful, you will not be surprised. You will nod silently and say, I was already on the way. The average man does not quit because he fails. He quits because he waits. Delay is the silent killer of ambition, not because it harms you, but because it reveals you. A man who desires only what comes quickly what arrives on schedule, what requires no persistence, has never desired with depth. He has merely flirted with ambition. True desire is not disturbed by time. It does not count the days. It does not watch the clock. It walks forward with certainty, regardless of how far the destination may lie. It is in delay that the real testing begins. The dream whispers to you in the beginning, seducing your excitement, igniting your plans, but then it goes quiet. And in that silence, there is the test. Will you move now? Will you persist when the applause fades, when the outer signs dry up, when others begin to question if it was ever real? It is in delay that the wheat is separated from the chaff. The man who walks only when encouraged is still a child in pursuit. But the one who marches on when no result appears, he is the man who will one day stand where others said it was impossible. Andrew Carnegie was not handed respect, nor wealth, nor legacy. For more than a decade, he labored in obscurity. He was ridiculed. He was underestimated. He was labeled too ambitious, too unqualified, too idealistic. And yet, he did not alter course. He did not dilute his plans to meet the approval of those with smaller dreams. He stayed the path because he understood what few men do. Delay is not a sign of denial. It is the furnace in which vision is forged. If the dream cannot survive delay, it was not strong enough to carry the weight of your future. Most men mistake delay for rejection. They think if a result does not come fast, it must not be meant for them. But how foolish this is. Nature delays every great harvest. The oak does not rise in a week. The stars are not born in silence and ease. The man who quits because it is taking too long is declaring to the world, I only wanted ease, not greatness. And nature hears that confession and obliges. She does not give her treasures to those who waver in the wind. She rewards only those who stay fixed, silent, and steady in the face of waiting. When delay comes, and it will come, it is not to punish you. It is to prepare you, to stretch your capacity, to test the purity of your motive. If you desire a thing only because of the applause it will bring, the riches it may promise, or the speed with which it arrives, then your aim is shallow, and shallow aims produce shallow lives. But if you can stand still and still burn, if you can be delayed and still devote yourself to the work, if you can wait and still war with full passion, then you are worthy of what is coming. The universe does not conspire with the impatient. It conspires with the decided. Those who have resolved that no matter how long it takes, they will become what they were called to become. These men become giants, not because of their talent, but because of their time spent waiting without weakening. Let this be your creed, spoken aloud until it echoes within you. I wait without weakening. Delay deepens my resolve. What I desire, I pursue without time limits. There is no clock on the man who has decided. His pace is not dictated by the calendar. His energy does not fade with delay. He grows stronger in silence. He sharpens in solitude. He becomes more dangerous with each passing day, not less. Delay only makes his steps more deliberate, his mind more focused, his will more immortal. This is what separates men like Carnegie, Ford, Edison, and Lincoln from the common masses. They did not move only when the world moved. They moved first. They waited, not with despair, but with a deeper certainty. They understood the law. When the time is right, what you have built in the dark will shine brighter than all. So when delay visits you, and it surely will, welcome it. Do not curse it. Let it train your discipline. Let it purify your reason. Let it confirm that your desire is not rented, it is owned. And remember always, it is not the man who begins quickly, but the man who endures quietly, who one day walks into the fullness of what was always his. The most powerful test is not opposition, nor is it failure. It is silence. When there is no sign, no applause, no result, no voice to confirm you are right, no wind at your back to affirm your direction. It is in this sacred quiet that the true character of a man is revealed. For many, silence becomes a verdict, a declaration of defeat. They begin to wonder if they were mistaken, if their desire was foolish, if perhaps the pursuit itself was vanity. But they err, not in their desire, but in their understanding of divine process. For God does not always announce his work with noise. Often, his greatest miracles are incubated in silence, not because he has forgotten you, not because the vision was wrong, but because the silence itself is the test, to see whether the seed of your desire can withstand the storm of uncertainty, whether you will keep walking, keep building, keep believing when no one is watching, when nothing seems to be working, when not even heaven whispers back. Henry Ford knew this silence well. After he refused the demands of his early investors, men who wanted control, safety, and quicker profits, he found himself alone. There were nights he sat in the darkness of his office, no orders, no revenue, no praise, but still, he held the picture of the Model T in his mind. He did not alter it. He did not shrink it. He did not apologize for its size. And because he stayed faithful in the silence, the day came when the noise of the world caught up to the certainty of his vision. Thomas Edison spent more hours alone in his lab than most men spend in conversation their entire lives. He heard no encouragement from the public, no cheers from newspapers. He walked into that lab day after day, with no guarantee of success, no promise of reward. And yet, he worked as if the light had already been invented, because in his spirit, it had. The silence was not a deterrent. It was the signal that greatness was near, and so he obeyed not the silence, but the voice within him that had already decided. Most men panic when silence arrives. They try to fill it with distractions, with comparisons, with new ideas, or worse, with surrender. But this is the hour when you must be most still and most strong, for it is the stillness that confirms whether your vision is truly yours. The dream that cannot survive silence is not yours. It is a borrowed ambition, but the one that keeps burning even when no voice answers back, that is the vision born from your soul and sealed by the divine. The silence is a forge. It will melt what is weak. It will burn away what is false, and what remains will be unshakable. If you can survive this test, you will never be the same. For the man who has walked forward in silence, who has obeyed without instruction, who has trusted without proof, he is not a mere man anymore. He is a man of faith. He is a man who commands reality. And so when silence comes, do not demand a sign. Do not beg for confirmation. Do not question the fire within simply because the world around you has gone quiet. Instead, remember this: God tests in silence what he intends to trust with greatness. The silence is not his absence. It is his approval. He does not speak because he is watching. He does not answer because he is recording. Will you persist? Will you stand? Will you walk as if it is already done? Affirm these words until they are carved into your mind. I walk faithfully, even when no voice is speaking back. I persist in silence with the certainty of sound. I am the type of man who does not require permission to continue. I do not panic in silence. I am prepared in it. Understand, my friend, that the silence will come again, perhaps often, but let that be your ally. Let it be your cue that something sacred is being shaped. Let it be your training ground, for the men who walk with certainty in silence shall one day be followed by the noise of nations, but they will no longer need it, for they will have become men who do not move because the world claps. They move because their soul commands it. It is the strangest thing. The moment a man is nearest his breakthrough, a door opens. But it is not the door he prayed for. It is not the arrival of the vision. It is not the fulfillment of his labor. It is something far more dangerous. It is an exit. A polite offer to stop. A comfortable opportunity to rest, to delay, to settle. It does not arrive with horns and heat. It arrives with calm, with logic, with mercy. And yet it is betrayal. It is the quiet voice of compromise cloaked in kindness. Right before destiny opens, the devil offers you another way out. And this is not conjecture. It is truth written in the lives of every man who ever tried to achieve something great. For the moment you decide with all of your spirit that you shall not return, that you shall not fall back, that you shall not surrender, the test begins. The devil knows he cannot stop a man in motion, but he can suggest a softer option. He can whisper, "You've done enough," or "There's still time," or "Why suffer?" It is exactly as I described in Outwitting the Devil. The enemy of success is not always failure. It is often false success, the offer that comes before the real one. the check that comes before the riches, the comfort that precedes the crown. And most men, hearing no thunder and seeing no applause, take the exit. They do not know that what they've accepted is not a blessing, but a bribe, a buyout from the mission their soul was born to complete. Charles Schwab, when working alongside Andrew Carnegie, was not immune to this. Before steel became the defining industry of America, Schwab was approached by rival magnates. They offered him safety, more pay, less pressure, more recognition. But Schwab knew these were not opportunities. These were traps. These were exit signs. And had he taken them, he would have become just another name in a ledger. Instead, he stayed. He endured. He expanded. And he earned not just success, but sovereignty over his field. You must come to recognize this pattern in your own life, that when the path gets hardest, when the silence is deepest, when the doubt is strongest, that is not a sign you're failing. It is a sign the devil is losing grip. It is a sign that something is breaking through in the spiritual realm. And so he makes one last attempt. He dangles an easier life. He suggests one more delay. He reminds you of your past, your wounds, your options. But you, my friend, must see clearly. That door is not for you. The man who is chosen for something great cannot afford to be soft. He cannot be deceived by ease, for ease is not the inheritance of the bold, purpose is. And that purpose will cost everything that isn't aligned with it. If you are not willing to turn down the exit, you are not ready to receive what God has promised. For a man cannot serve two voices. He cannot be both committed and cautious. He must be all in, or he is already out. You will not be spared from this test. If you are on the path, the exit will appear. It may look like rest. It may sound like safety. It may wear the face of approval. But ask yourself, who profits if I take this door? Is it the dreamer or the drifter? Is it your higher self or the one that's afraid to rise? Is it God or the devil? If it is not your definite chief aim in disguise, then it is your destruction in disguise, and you must slam that door without negotiation. You may feel tired, you may feel stretched, but this is not the time to evaluate. This is the time to endure. For right past the moment of greatest temptation lives the transformation you've prayed for. Right past the lie lives the promise. Right past the urge to quit lives the man who will never again consider quitting. And so you must speak these words, not as motivation, but as confirmation. I do not exit. I expand. I see the lie before I speak it. I do not mistake comfort for calling. I am the type of man who shuts the door before the devil knocks. I turn down every offer that does not carry my name in destiny. You must remember this. The world is not fair to the man who does not know his assignment, but it bows to the one who refuses to leave it. No matter how beautiful the door, no matter how safe the path, no matter how familiar the comfort, if it does not lead forward, it is not yours. There is no halfway in purpose. There is no partial obedience. You were not called to dabble. You were not called to drift. You were not called to flirt with fate. You were born to fulfill it. And that fulfillment demands that you pass this test, that you say no when yes is easier, that you endure when retreat is available, that you walk past the exit and into the fire, because you know on the other side something holy is being prepared. There are moments in every man's life when he is sure no one sees him. No audience, no recognition, no eyes to witness the struggle. And it is in precisely these moments that he makes his truest impression, not on the world, but on the unseen. The invisible forces that govern this life, the spiritual authorities, the inner councils, the divine intelligence, are not persuaded by show. They are not impressed by noise. They are not swayed by popularity. They observe the quiet hour. They evaluate the private effort. They watch, not when you are seen, but when you are alone. You are being watched by the invisible. Every decision you make in darkness is recorded. Every time you persist in silence, you announce to heaven who you are becoming. When you press forward without applause, when you speak faith with no one listening, when you obey without proof or promise, these are not wasted acts. They are signatures. They are evidence. They are stamps of qualification that no man can see, but every outcome depends on. A man is not defined by what he says under lights, but by what he does in the shadows. Many seek glory, but few can carry the weight of it. Why? Because they collapse in private. They are inconsistent when no one is looking. They build castles in public and caves in private. They think that performance earns reward, but the invisible realm honors character, not showmanship. And character is revealed when comfort is not present, when credit is not given, when certainty is not offered. Abraham Lincoln was a man forged in such silence. Long before he stood at the helm of a fractured nation, long before his name echoed through generations, he was a man of internal consistency. He did not sway with opinion. He did not rise and fall with polls or parties. He made decisions anchored to principle, not popularity. When alone, he upheld the same standards. When misunderstood, he remained rooted in his values. It was this unseen stability, this quiet moral fortitude that gave him the right to govern, the strength to lead, and the clarity to endure. You, too, are being prepared, but the test is not how you act when the doors open. It is how you act when they remain closed. Can you remain faithful when nothing is moving? Can you continue building when no one is watching? Can you keep your soul aligned when applause is absent and affirmation silent? These are not small questions. They are the blueprint of spiritual authority. Every great man I studied knew this. Edison did not require a crowd to believe in his invention. He did not need public opinion to keep testing filaments. His workshop was his temple. His repetition, his prayer, his persistence, his offering, and eventually, heaven responded. Light came not because he demanded it, but because he became the kind of man who would not give up without it. And what about Ford? His vision was not nourished by praise. In fact, most of his ideas were mocked. He was dismissed, criticized, and even sabotaged. But he remained the same man, building, improving, preparing. He did not adjust his internal compass to fit the maps of others. He did not need agreement to obey his vision. He stayed the course in the dark and was rewarded in the light. You must understand, the unseen world is waiting for proof of your faith. It does not operate on what you say, but what you do consistently. If you declare that you believe but compromise in secret, you are not aligned. If you speak of purpose but only act when seen, you are not anchored. The invisible is not fooled. It is not emotional. It is governed by law, and that law is simple. Show me who you are when no one else can see, and I will determine what you are ready to receive. This is why the waiting room matters. This is why the long silence is sacred. It is not punishment, it is preparation. It is not delay, it is measurement. The invisible is calculating your capacity, testing your persistence, observing your soul. And the man who passes this test, he does not need to ask for reward. It is given, not as favor, but as reflection. So what must you do? You must resolve now to act as if you are already qualified. You must decide that your integrity will not bend in the dark. You must walk, work, and believe with the same intensity, whether watched or ignored. For in doing so, you move heaven itself. You summon alignment. You attract divine momentum. Speak not to men for validation. Act not for the audience. Move as though every step is seen by the author of all things, for it is. Every private discipline is a public prophecy. Every unseen repetition is the foundation of a future no one else is allowed to touch. You are building a life not in view of spectators, but under the inspection of destiny. Now declare, I do what is right, even when I am alone. I act as though heaven is watching, because it is. I do not adjust my effort based on applause. I am the type of man who earns reward in private before it arrives in public. I pass the test of the unseen. Let these be more than statements. Let them be your daily code. And as you live them, consistently, quietly, boldly, the invisible will answer. Doors will open. Provision will come. The vision will manifest. Not because you demanded it, but because you proved, when no one else saw, that you were worthy of holding it. The blessing you are waiting for is not being withheld. It is being sized against your soul. God does not delay from cruelty, but from care. He will not deliver greatness into the hands of a man unready to hold it. He will not place wealth, attention, responsibility, or influence upon shoulders still uncertain of who they are. The delay you perceive is not silence. It is shaping. Capacity precedes reward, and most men ask for reward far larger than the character they've built. They cry for abundance but shrink under pressure. They wish to be seen but cannot tolerate scrutiny. They beg for freedom but cannot govern their own appetites. They desire to lead others while still ruled by doubt, fear, and inconsistency. The divine does not operate on request. It operates on preparation. You will not receive what you pray for. You will receive what you are built to carry. A child does not drive a carriage simply because he wants to. The horse would outrun his grip. The wheels would roll over his inexperience. And so it is with power. Power in unworthy hands is destruction. Attention in undisciplined hands is ego. Influence without moral compass becomes manipulation. No, my friend, God waits, not because he does not want to bless you, but because he desires to bless through you, and for that, your vessel must be strengthened first. Henry Ford did not merely build a machine. He built a system, a vision, a movement. He created jobs, transformed industry, and made transportation accessible to the common man. But had he received attention at the wrong stage, had he tasted success before the skeleton of his discipline was set, he would have crumbled under the weight of opinion. And opinion is heavier than steel, criticism sharper than iron. It was his long solitude, his repeated rejection, his deep conviction that gave him the internal structure to carry the external reward. Thomas Edison was no less tested. He did not succeed by accident. He succeeded through systems. He surrounded himself not with praise, but with thinkers, men who sharpened his mind, questioned his assumptions, expanded his possibilities. He created not just inventions, but environments, laboratories that birthed brilliance not because of luck, but because of discipline. He understood that what you build around you reflects what you've built within. And now you, what have you built within? Before you ask again for the blessing, ask first, am I truly ready? Can I handle contradiction without collapsing? Can I withstand misinterpretation without retreating? Can I receive abundance without arrogance? Can I be seen, heard, followed, and still remain humble, aligned, and obedient to a vision greater than myself? This is why you have not been denied. You have been refined. The hammer that strikes the steel is not punishment. It is purpose. The fire that heats it is not cruelty. It is creation. Your seasons of isolation, of being unseen, of being overlooked, these are not curses. These are the sacred hours of expansion. Your frame is being stretched. Your soul is being widened, not so that you can boast in your arrival, but so that when you arrive, you do not break beneath the gift. The man who wishes to command must first learn to serve. The man who wishes to teach must first learn to live. The man who desires to inspire must first suffer, so that his words carry the power of proof. Every hour of delay has added one more beam to your foundation. Every tear, another layer of mortar. Every unanswered prayer, another test of your internal strength. The house you are building cannot be made of straw. It must stand in storms. It must protect others. It must represent something eternal. You say you are ready? Then prove it. Not with words, but with work. Not with performance, but with persistence. Keep rising in obscurity. Keep refining your skills in the shadows. Keep showing up when no one calls your name. Keep giving your best when no one applauds. For these are the deeds that echo in heaven. These are the signs that you are ready, not to receive a blessing, but to become one. You will not need to ask for it when the time comes. You will fit into it like armor forged for your exact frame. The weight you now fear will become your crown. The attention you once avoided will become your assignment. The influence you once chased will follow you without effort, because you have become the kind of man it trusts to be stewarded by. And so I ask you now, how are you growing your capacity? How are you expanding the vessel? How are you increasing the depth of your soul, the weight of your word, the strength of your spirit? For the blessing that is meant for you is vast. It does not ask whether you want it. It waits to see whether you can hold it without falling. Repeat these truths to yourself until they are carved into your identity. I am the type of man who is being shaped for greatness. I do not fear the weight. I build in it. I am a vessel growing in strength, discipline, and character. My future responsibility requires present preparation. I do not rush, I do not complain, I do not collapse, I build. And so you build, brick by invisible brick, until the day comes when the door opens, the room is full, the eyes are watching, and you realize you did not come to receive the blessing. You came to carry it for others. And that, my friend, is the mark of the man who has been made ready. Do not merely ask for greatness, prepare for it. The blessing you seek is not handed down from heaven like an unearned crown. It is entrusted to those who prove, through daily habit and self-examination, that they have grown the character, strength, and discipline to carry it. The question is not whether you want it. Every man wants. The true question is whether you are becoming the man capable of holding it. Sit down in silence. With pen in hand and clarity of mind, write down what you claim to want from life. Do not filter. Do not water it down. If you say you desire wealth, then write it plainly. I desire great wealth. If it is purpose, then let it be. I desire to live aligned with a mission higher than myself. If it is leadership, love, influence, or peace, declare it as it truly lives within your heart. And now for the test. Beneath that desire, ask yourself this sacred question. What must I become to carry this? What qualities must exist in the man who holds that dream without it destroying him? Who must you be to attract and sustain the very thing you say you are waiting for? If you wrote down wealth, then perhaps the answer is, I must become disciplined, responsible, generous, a master of value creation. I must be immune to extravagance and anchored in purpose, not possession. If you desire leadership, then you must become courageous, clear-minded, unmoved by public opinion, willing to decide when others hesitate, able to suffer misunderstanding without losing moral direction. Whatever your desire, write down who you must become to hold it without crumbling under its weight. Now take it one level deeper. Beneath that answer, write this final question. What am I doing daily to become that man? This is where most falter, for they speak with conviction but act with compromise. They claim to want the mountain, but train like men satisfied with the valley. Your desires are sacred, but they mean nothing if they are not matched by daily action that forges the required self. Do not lie to yourself here. Be exact. What habits are building you into a man of wealth? What routines are aligning you with purpose? What disciplines are preparing you for influence, responsibility, or spiritual depth? If your day does not reflect the weight of your desire, then your desire is fantasy, not faith. Once complete, do not tuck this away in a drawer of forgotten notebooks. Post this challenge where your weaker self must see it every single day, on your bathroom mirror, on the inside of your door, in your wallet, in your car. Wherever the man of distraction may attempt to rise, place this truth in front of his face. Let it judge you. Let it instruct you. Let it remind you that your preparation is your prayer, that your consistency is your belief, that your present actions are your prophecy. And as you read it daily, say this aloud, not once, but until you believe it. I am the type of man who is becoming what my dream requires. I build daily what others hope for weekly. I earn my blessing by the man I become, before it arrives. My desire is matched by my development. I will not ask for what I refuse to become worthy of. Your greatest dream already exists, in potential. Whether you meet it depends not on the passing of time, but on the rise of self. The man you must become is calling, and your answer is not in more asking, but in becoming the answer, one decision, one day, one discipline at a time. There arrives in every man's pursuit a sacred moment, an hour where the choice is no longer theoretical, where the crossroads is no longer a concept but a call to war. This is that moment. No more signs will come. No more external confirmations will arrive. If you are waiting for permission, you will wait forever. If you are asking for one more piece of evidence, one more sign that you are ready, then hear this clearly. Readiness is not a matter of evidence. It is a matter of resolve. The blessing you desire has already been assigned. What remains is for you to become the man who claims it through action, through perseverance, and through refusal to fold when the pain is greatest. This is the breaking point. And contrary to what the drifting man believes, the breaking point is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that you are finally standing in front of something sacred. For the highest rewards in life are always guarded by the highest resistance. Most men retreat when this threshold is reached, thinking they are being rejected, when in fact they are being evaluated. Heaven does not hand out greatness to the curious. It entrusts it to the committed. Carnegie, long before he became the Steel King, stood at a breaking point of exhaustion, doubt, and pressure. He questioned his own sanity, his own ambition, his own worth. But in the darkest night, he made a vow not to back down. He whispered to himself, "I must become the man that my vision demands." And so he did. That vow, made in silence beneath the weight of failure, is what became his crown. Henry Ford, too, nearly collapsed under the pressure of lawsuits, criticism, and financial suffocation. He was mocked for daring to democratize the automobile, told he was mad to believe the average man would ever afford such a luxury. There were moments where folding would have seemed like wisdom, but Ford saw further. He did not consider quitting an option, for he had burned the bridge to any alternative. His breaking point was not his burial, it was his baptism. And now, the same question comes for you. Will you finish or fold? You have spoken enough about change. You have waited long enough for the right time. The myth of someday is now exposed. This is the test that defines the rest of your life. This is the moment that will echo years into the future, either as your coronation or as the beginning of regret. And the difference between the two is not luck, not conditions, not resources. It is a decision, one made in pain, one made in fatigue, one made in sacred defiance. Do not be fooled. If you retreat here, you will return to a life that no longer fits. Once you have glimpsed your higher self, nothing less will satisfy. To turn back now is to sentence yourself to quiet torment, the knowing that you had a chance to rise but chose comfort instead. But if you choose to move forward, to finish, to press even when it hurts, then something greater than effort begins to guide you. Providence begins to align. The same invisible hand that tested you will begin to reward you, not because you begged for it, but because you proved yourself worthy through refusal to bow. This is not about motivation. This is not about feeling ready. This is about choosing powerfully in the absence of comfort. This is about obeying the voice within that says, "You were born for this." And if that voice is faint, you speak until it grows louder. If that voice trembles, you steady it with declaration. Say it, "I do not fold, I finish. I am the type of man who endures until the end. This pain is not my punishment, it is my passage. I was not called to quit. I was chosen to rise. The pressure does not weaken me, it identifies me." Speak these aloud until they become carved into your mind. Speak them not to believe in a fantasy, but to solidify a fact. You are at the gate, and whether or not you walk through it will be the single most defining act of your life. The time for consideration is over. The moment of comfort has passed. What remains now is the moment that separates the man who nearly made it from the man who did. And there is only one answer left to give, only one path to walk, only one version of you worth living. Decide now, not in theory, not tomorrow, not with conditions. Now, will you become the man who finished what he started? Will you rise, or will you vanish beneath the weight of almost? This is your breaking point and your breakthrough. There is a strange stillness that follows great trials, not the kind born of exhaustion, but the kind that settles into the soul after a man realizes what he has become. You do not enter this stillness as the same man who began. You arrive with a silence inside you, one earned through persistence, forged in uncertainty, and sanctified through fire. And when the gift finally appears, it does not come with trumpets or praise. It comes with knowing, a deep, unshakable knowing that you were never denied. It was simply not yet time. Most men cry out in the trial and beg for release. But the wise man understands. The trial is not punishment. It is preparation. The fire is not designed to burn him down, but to burn away the parts of him that were never meant to carry the weight of destiny. The delay was never distance, it was design. What you desired, what you were praying for, working toward, hoping would appear, it was always near, but it required a version of you who could wield it without being destroyed by it. The blessing was too heavy for the man you were. It demanded the man you now are. Andrew Carnegie once said that the burden of wealth was not in acquiring it, but in stewarding it. And only those who could delay gratification, endure isolation, and obey principle under pressure were worthy of such a task. That is the man God chooses. That is the man you have become. You did not receive the gift by forcing it. You received it because you stayed. You stood when others ran. You obeyed when others doubted. You endured when there was no applause, no clarity, and no safety net. You became the man that Providence could trust. That was always the requirement. And now that you stand at the gates, you find something strange, something sacred. The desire for the gift no longer burns the same way, not because it no longer matters, but because you matter more. You realize the true gift was never the thing itself. It was the transformation. The prize was not the outcome. The prize was who you had to become in order to receive it. Henry Ford became the man who could revolutionize an industry long before his car ever left the line. Edison became the light before the bulb ever lit. Abraham Lincoln became the Union long before the war was won. In silence, in solitude, in scorn, they grew, and so did you. You are now no longer desperate for the door to open because you understand. You are the key. You do not chase destiny. It is drawn to you by your decision to obey, persist, and become. You no longer cry out for evidence because your life is the evidence. The storm, the silence, the delay, the battle, they did not ruin you. They revealed you. And this, my friend, is the moment that so few ever taste. The moment when power no longer frightens you, when opportunity no longer distracts you, and when praise no longer owns you. You have become the man who can carry greatness quietly and wear it not as a badge of pride, but as a mark of obedience. So now you walk forward, not because you crave the reward, but because you are the reward. Your life becomes a demonstration of what happens when a man refuses to quit, when a man rejects compromise, when a man declares, "I will finish." And in this sacred stillness, you hear something new, not the voice of doubt, but the voice of confirmation. It whispers not from the outside, but from within. You are ready. Say these words aloud. I endured the fire, and it made me holy. I am the man God trusts with power. I do not chase destiny. I attract it by obedience. I was not delayed. I was being developed. I no longer beg for favor. I walk as a man already favored. Let these not be mere statements, but sacred truths. Speak them not as affirmations, but as identity. Let them be the final seal over a season that tested you and did not destroy you. Let them remind you that the promise was never denied. It was just waiting for the man strong enough to receive it without being consumed. You are that man. Take a quiet hour. Sit with a pen, not a machine. Let your hand bear witness to the truth you are about to declare. You are to write a letter, but not to someone else. Write it from the man you shall become to the man you are now. A letter sent back through time. A message from the version of you who did not waver, who did not collapse, who did not retreat. A letter from the man who crossed the threshold, endured the silence, and stood firm while the world whispered, "Let go." This man, the future you, knows what it cost. He remembers the storm. He recalls the days when your faith flickered and the nights when your resolve trembled. And in this letter, he speaks not with pity, but with honor. For it was you who endured. It was you who did not take the easy door. It was you who chose the path of discipline over comfort, clarity over noise, purpose over drifting. In your letter, describe the life you are now living 1 year from this very day. Describe how your days begin. What habits govern your mind? What victories have you secured? Who are you surrounded by? What have you built? Speak not in vague ideals, but in concrete vision. Detail the breakthroughs, describe the blessings. Speak of the doors that opened not by accident, but by obedience. Then describe the pain. Do not run from it. Honor it. Write about what you endured and how it formed you. Speak of the doubts that tried to drown you and how you rose above them. Name the battles you won within yourself. Record how you outlasted temptation and killed the old excuses that once ruled your life. Then, most importantly, thank yourself. Thank yourself for not quitting, for staying in the fire, for acting when no one clapped, for building in silence, for walking with faith when the path was dark, for listening to the voice within that whispered, Keep going. This letter is not mere imagination. It is blueprint. It is mirror. It is prophecy. Place this letter somewhere sacred. Fold it and place it on your wall or inside your journal. Read it once every month, not for motivation, but for memory. Adjust it as you evolve. Let it remind you that destiny is not some distant shore. It is forged daily in the furnace of discipline and direction. You are not hoping to become this man. You are training to become him. And today you write to prove it. Write your letter now. Would you like a templated example to help guide the format? There will come a moment, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, when you look back. And when you do, let it not be with resentment, but with reverence. For the storm you once cursed, the silence that made you question your path, the delays that wore down your patience, were never signs of neglect. They were sacred trials, divine chisels, tools in the hand of an unseen sculptor, shaping the character required to carry the very thing you asked for. You once thought the fire would kill you, that the waiting meant you were forgotten, that the pain was proof that you were not chosen. But now you understand, the fire was permission. It was not punishment, it was passage. And in that passage, the old man was burned away, his doubts, his inconsistencies, his begging for shortcuts, all consumed so that something better might rise in his place. Every great man who ever walked the earth knew this same fire. Henry Ford did not find peace in his pursuit. He forged it, blow by blow, trial by trial. Andrew Carnegie bore ridicule and near collapse before his empire stood. Abraham Lincoln walked through loss, through division, through solitude deeper than any man deserves, because he understood that destiny does not shout. It whispers through storms, and only the obedient hear it. You have now walked the same path. You have known the taste of waiting. You have felt the sting of stillness, but still you rose. You persisted when there was no applause. You walked when the ground beneath your feet trembled. You believed when belief cost you everything. And now you understand the truth. You were never being punished, only prepared. So never again ask, why me? Ask instead, what am I being made ready for? Because from this moment forward, you will see all challenge differently. Delay no longer weakens you, it strengthens. Silence no longer frightens. It deepens your faith. Resistance no longer tempts you to quit. It reminds you that you are near the threshold. You have endured, and because of that, you are qualified. Let this be the final voice of this journey, the voice that confirms what you already know in your bones, that the storm was not your enemy, that pain was not rejection, that what looked like detour was design, that your tears were not wasted. They watered the ground you now stand on. And now the gift is near. Not because it was finally delivered, but because you have become the man who can carry it. Say these words aloud, not as wish, but as war cry. I am not broken, I am built. The delay was a blessing in disguise. This is my time. I do not retreat. Repeat them until your very soul believes them. Let them echo long after this speech has ended, for you are not going back. You cannot. The man who began this journey is no longer here. And that, my friend, is the point.